What's going on, Workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And today we're going to hijack the wheel a little bit. The wheel rolled that we should be talking about crafting as it relates to Shadowbringers. And I think that a better conversation is going to be kind of our 6.0 wish list for crafting and as we build up to hype for it. But you might be asking, what are we taking over? What's the conversation today? And it's actually going to be about Shadowlands. We're going to kind of throw a curveball in here. Shadowlands. What's up? Oh, yeah, okay.
It comes out in 1 week.
I thought you were like, wait a minute, Brian, wait a minute. I was like, okay.
No, it comes out in 1 week.
And so next week, Shadowlands drops, thus completing our oddly themed year and a half of Shadow, starting with Shadowbringers, going into Destiny Shadow Keep, and finally Shadowlands. And so it's going to be very interesting, and if you guys haven't been following along, I have just started playing it. I am playing it on controller. I am almost at level cap. And Chris actually just got a new gaming PC. He's a first-time gaming PC noob here. And you guys can catch out his stream like we've been streaming over at twitch.com/work2game. And we'll have that link in the description if you want to come check it out. Basically, it means more streams. And part of that's going to be Shadowlands, a part of that's going to be Shadowbringers, and you'll probably see some Destiny and some Godfall and things like that. If you guys cannot tell, I am like in game heaven right now. Like there's just
so much.
There's so many good games right now. I got my Series X. I'm waiting for I'm hoping for a Final Fantasy XVI version of the PS5. I've never gotten a special console edition, and now I'm kind of like, oh baby. So hopefully you guys are enjoying some games. But I figure let's go ahead and switch over to the expert in the room from WoW and talk about, is now a time to return and play WoW, whether you've been on a break or maybe get started for the first time ever. And I'm going to share some of my thoughts, but I want to hear what Chris's take on this whole situation is.
Yeah, so we're a week out. There's an event for max level characters to return back and do. It would be hard to take part in that as a new character without using a boost. But honestly, like, it's a cool event, I guess. But the more important thing is, like, do you want to play Shadowlands? Mm-hmm. They've completely reshaped the new player experience. We've talked about it a number of times on stream and on the channel, and over on my personal channel. I don't know if you've talked about it on Ginger Prime, but it's a lot. We've talked about the new player experience quite a bit, and I think it's more forgiving than other. Brian, when he says controller, he's talking native controller.
Native controller,
not an add-on.
No add-on support
inside the game. So I think one of your videos on your comment on how to set up the controller support was they'll never add this natively, and it's like no. This is native. Yeah. Like what I'm showing you is native. This is not like what it could be. It is native. Yeah. So I know for 14 players, yesterday on stream, I spent like an hour or two of my stream just kind of hanging out and chatting while I was tabbing back and forth, because now that I'm playing both games at the same time, usually one game is very secondary, but because they're both going to be sharing the spotlight, I wanted the UI and the keybinds to match exactly. And so I was pulling up Final Fantasy, because you can do a lot, but you can only do so much. And then I was using add-ons to directly mimic my entire screen layout so that the bars are in the same spots, the keybinds are in the same way, the mini-maps in the same spot, so that they look a lot alike. I'm really ready. I couldn't be more hyped. It's been a long road to get here, as much of 2020 has been with everything. I think that there is no better time to hop in as a new player. Mm-hmm. Because the new player experience is simply phenomenal.
See, I want to piggyback off that, because you're representing, in this case, should you return, and I think I'm representing should you start. And I have to say, as somebody who's never played WoW, in the sense of like I've touched it in the past enough to consider myself a complete noob when it comes to this experience. Like I've dabbled, and I think it was even like
he's done the equivalent of he started in Heavensward and he made it to level 30.
Yeah,
like
that's my.
He didn't make it to the initial level cap in an expansion after the initial level cap.
Not even halfway to the initial level cap. Like it was just like, oh, this is neat, and then I would go back and play Final Fantasy XI. So starting, I consider this my official start in World of Warcraft, and I would say if you've never played WoW, this is a great time. the experience from the new player experience, the leveling experience, the dungeons themselves, like it has been a very, very good experience. But I'm going to say this, and I said this in my impressions video, hands down, I don't think I'd still be playing it if it didn't support the controller natively. It doesn't necessarily do everything just yet, but that's feedback that I want to keep providing to the devs, and I love that I can just sit back and I can play this game, and it allows me to, I think, just personally to play this longer. That's one of the reasons why 11 was so addictive and why 14 is so addictive. There is a comfort, and there's a way that I can play this like in a very hardcore way, and a way that I can also play this in a very relaxed way, and that's what I want. I want that flexibility. I know I'm not representing all gamers in the universe based off of my ridiculousness when it comes to like the preferring of a controller, but beyond that perspective, being able to just dive into this world, we gave our impressions, especially as it relates to 14, what I think 14 just does, like from a curated and just like I'm spoiled by 14, like when it comes down to it, because I do have to go to add-ons to kind of get a couple of different things that I want, but all in all, like it's not, I didn't feel very intimidating. I think that the level squish, when they first told me about it, I had a pit in my stomach. I was like, that feels like they're robbing me of my work. But as a new player coming in, saying that you just have to right now go to 50, and then next week the level cap is at 60, it feels so much more doable. It feels, whether I'm like a busy parent, especially as we're getting ready to have baby number 5, like I know my gaming time is less than because I'm just helping Julie out, but I think it's the perfect time to jump in because it's going to be exciting. I can't testament to the long-term nature of it. We saw BFA come in praised, and then everybody was like, this is not great. Chris, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think that's the next pivot. I think talking about expectations for what an expansion means. So when we say you should play an expansion, what I really mean is you should play through the initial serving of content. Okay. Right? That's what you're purchasing today. You're paying you're playing around that kind of $60 point, right? I think is depending on the edition, but and you're paying to activate your subscription. If you're coming as a new player, you're doing the new trial to level 20, and then you're paying your subscription, which gives you access to everything up to the end of BFA. And when you hit level 50, then you're paying for a copy of Shadowlands, and you're moving into Shadowlands. So it's a fairly affordable path. But I think when we look back at BFA, people are like, oh, well, that expansion turned out to be, disliked at many points in its track after the initial serving. The initial questing was really fun, but then like basically as soon as we started getting into really high-end raids, it started falling apart. It just kind of the loot system just didn't feel the way it should, and that's fine, because when you're paying for this, when you're paying the initial price, you're not necessarily having to do that. If you compare this to going out and picking up a single player RPG that releases this year, or something like that, you're expecting to get that 60, maybe 100 hours out of it. That's what you expect. And I would go into Shadowlands with that very same thing. Do I know that Torghast Tower is going to be fun on its 100th time, its 1000th time? That's their take on Deep Dungeon. It's very different. It's got, you kind of like choose your own adventure as you go through it. So you're picking from these cards that kind of like modify your character and your rotation in a core way. So it's more powerful than Pommanders. I think it'll be really fun at first. Will it be fun 100 times in or 1,000 times in? I don't know. Some things are, some things aren't. The only way to know is to try. But if it's not, that's okay. Move on. Mythic Plus. This will be Brian's first time doing Mythic Plus.
Yeah.
For people, depending on how long of a break they've been, if they maybe the last time they played, we had challenge modes, which was different. Come back and try Mythic Plus. Will Mythic Plus be fun your 1,000th time through a dungeon? I don't know. But a couple of affixes on each dungeon once or twice, that's several weeks worth of play. So I think there is enough here to easily enjoy Shadowlands for like a month or two, which should be enough time for Cyberpunk 2077 to come out and actually have a patch, like maybe. So like it's worth playing for that amount of time. Expansions are a lot of content. So before we talk about what the end game loot system means long term, just know there is a huge section of content that'll be fun to get to. And then one of the things that we've talked about here on the channel before is these are theme park games. So if that section is only fun for its initial serving, and then the raids and the Mythic Plus becomes not fun, there's a whole bunch of other stuff if you want to find stuff to do in game that you can go back and play a lot of legacy content.
And that's actually one of the things I found interesting about your experience with BFA versus everybody else's, the general internet's, expectation is that everybody was like, oh, BFA, the end game isn't what I want it to be. And what Chris did was he just went back and played through all the other stuff that he hadn't played through. Like you took a break, like one expansion, and there was still like all this other stuff that you hadn't played. And for me as a new player, let's say I play through Shadowlands and then it's like, okay, yeah, the end game really isn't something that appeals to me for whatever reason. Well, I still have, I mean, in my case, I almost said hundreds of expansions, tens or whatever.
Basically.
Yeah. So many other expansions that I can actually tailor, like leveling up different characters and playing through that expansion as kind of that goal to get myself into the Shadowlands. So to start, I'm playing through BFA. Honestly, as a 14 player who really enjoys 14, especially for its story, I really don't know what's going on, but that's okay. Like it's actually fun on its own. The gameplay and the social aspect and being able to jump in with people here in the workforce and play, through World of Warcraft right now is actually just really enjoyable standing on its own. And so that's one of the things that's really fascinating, where within, I don't expect this like massive narrative that 14 delivers, but WoW delivers enough exposition that I generally have an idea what's going on, and then it just basically then has me feed up the question, like, hey, what's going on with this? What's the thought here? And, at the end of the day, that's really what I'm looking for. I'm not necessarily looking for that narrative expectation. So if you're like going from 14, you're like, man, Shadowlands 5.3 just knocked out of the park. I'm looking for another really great story-driven RPG. Probably, I wouldn't say WoW. I know probably WoW people out there are going to be like, what are you talking about? There's lots of story. It's like, yes, but I'm talking about how it's presented to me as a player.
It's closer to Destiny. You're going to
right, and I love Destiny story.
External resources to have a true and deep understanding.
And also, I do love Destiny. That's kind of what I'm actually appreciating about WoW and Destiny as a whole, is that it's able to deliver gameplay and then story is layered within that. That's one of the reasons why I like the trust system in 14. I just wish they were allowing mix and match options so I could like play with friends and a couple of trusts. I think that would be really cool because the trust system delivers some of that exposition. It delivers some of that characterization. And so I do appreciate that as well. So like, at the end of the day, like, I try to set the right expectation towards games, and it's usually when I make the mistake and set the wrong expectations is usually when I end up getting frustrated with the game, and it's like, the game did nothing wrong. It literally communicated, this is what it is, and then I took it and ran with it too far,
Shadowlands zones are supposedly enormous. I didn't spend
We've played actually in them already when we were out at BlizzCon last year.
Yeah, but like I didn't get a feel for the pace, the size. A ton of time in the PTR. I spent some dabbling with professions to give some bug feedback, but I really don't like questing. I like to leave that a more like fresh experience. And so I hear they're enormous. The Covenants look really fun. I've watched all 4 of the trailers. I understand that the Soulbind system and the Covenant balance system, that from a balance structure, that the game may not be balanced. So, and that's fine. Once again, like, you don't need the game to be balanced to get through the initial serving, to play through normal dungeons, to play through normal raids, to play through the initial first 10 levels of Mythic Plus. You don't need your class to be the top level class. You just need to play your class as well as you can, in whatever spec you want, in a party that actually gives a crap, and you can clear everything for an initial serving. Now, when you try to go back and you try to start clearing things on really high mythic keys, you try to start clearing things on heroic raids, mythic raids, then that balance is going to start to come into effect. When you try to start staying best in slot continuously, patch over patch, that stuff is going to matter. The pacing of the world quests, the pacing, and there's going to be all these things you're going to hear. Oh my gosh, my class is 6% damage below these other people, or 3%, or whatever, and there's nothing I can do about it, and it's bullcrap. That's fine. That's a different question in my mind than whether or not you should play the initial serving of Shadowlands. Okay. In my mind, there is enough here that is just base fun, that if you're finding that you have downtime between now and, like, at least on this channel, we play a lot of 14. So if you have downtime between now and 5.4, it's a great time to go over there. Because I know, Brian, like, you have all your jobs leveled.
Yes,
so,
I do.
Like,
and
what do you do?
Well, for me right now, I'm working on like the Dragoon and the Ninja controller guides. So you guys, if you haven't checked out Ginger Prime, that's where we're going to post those. And then ultimately we'll refresh their Ultimate Controller Guide here it worked a game. But right now they're really like, if I'm hoping that within 14 they bring in the PvP combo system, but we can talk about that for another discussion down there here in a couple weeks, probably once we get more into 5.4 and seeing where the direction of the game is going. Since we have to wait till February to kind of get our serving of what's coming next for Final Fantasy.
November 27th is the next live letter for Final Fantasy.
So we'll be live
right off the heels of Shadowlands. So if Shadowlands you play 10,000 hours a day on the 23rd through the 27th, and you've somehow cleared it all, we'll have news for you about what 5.4 has on the 27th.
I'm looking forward to that, though. I'm really looking forward to seeing where we're going to go with 5.4. It just feels such a good time to be a gamer. Like I don't know if anybody else is in that boat. Like I'm personally overwhelmed. You're a little bit overwhelmed. Like I honestly, it's just kind of like, I'm just taking. We sat down and played the new Call of Duty last night and just had an absolute blast. But it's that's something where I'm kind of just enjoying that for the enjoyment and not for kind of like, hey, I'm not viewing this as how do I make a video, like what kind of video do I need to make off of it. But with WoW, like I'm looking at it as like I'm gonna get my druid to cap, and then if I can do a really good controller guide, like really set that up correctly and just my version of correctly, just very comfortably, very easy to get into things. Then ultimately, then I just challenging the other classes, and whether I decide to play through like previous expansions or more, like there's just a lot there. And so when it comes down to it, all I'm going to do is just say, like, I'm not putting the gas on any of it. I'm just going to enjoy the experience and then hopefully deliver some really cool content that people can enjoy as well. Because that's what it's about. It's about enjoying these games, whether with friends or, for the horde. I don't know. Chris, is there anything that, like from a returning player that they could be working on this week to kind of get them back in and get them ready for Monday? Because I don't know what time it launches on Monday, but you've been covering it on your channel. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's going to vary between the 23rd and 24th. It's a global release, so it all comes out the same time everywhere in the world. They have that. It's a image on their website. It should be on the launcher, I think, as well. Global release times. I know I've referenced it in a couple of my videos. Over on Gaming Kinda. Huge thanks to all of you that have subscribed over there.
He's almost to 1,000, guys. Let's get him there.
So I will say that, like, as a returning player, come back, clean out your quest log, get your skills on bars. It seems like there's some drama between like the Twitch app and then moving over to CurseForge on December 2nd. I don't really know all of the story behind Overwolf and everything that's happening there. That's drama that's like unfolding in real time, and I don't really understand. I went and downloaded all my add-ons on CurseForge on my PC, since that seems to be where things are going to be moving forward. Get settled there, and then if you're at cap, if you're at 50, so say you logged out at 120 sometime during BFA, you're now at 50. If you logged out during Legion at 110, you're now 45. It scales you relative to where you were in the experience curve. Try to get to cap, and if you're at cap, go do the event. The event starts in Orgrimmar, starts you on the Scourge event. There's 2 parts after the initial section. One's going to take you to Eastern Kingdoms, and one's going to take you to Icecrown. Go do the Eastern Kingdoms first. That quest line is going to end relatively abruptly, and you're going to get a level 115 weapon. So that puts you at like top, that really good raid gear weapon, and that's a huge driver for your DPS. That'll probably, I assume, carry you to 54 or 55. I mean, I would love for them to replace it sooner, but like that'll get you through your first bit of Shadowlands with a decent weapon equipped, and then jump out to Icecrown. If you're coming from Final Fantasy, Icecrown is a series of quests. Then it results in a series of what feels like Beast Tribe quests, and then you sit on basically a Eureka train and you kill famous rares in a circle until you get all of your 100 and 110 loot, your normal and like heroic gear. And so just gear out. One of them drops a 34 slot bag. It's one of only 2 34 slot bags possible in the game. So for anybody that wants to chase that, it's up every like 6 hours and 40 minutes, I think, makes a full loop of the train. And that's what returning players are doing right now. We're all just sitting there hanging out, doing a loop in a circle until we say, you know what, I'm gonna go clean out my bags, log out, and take a break, and I'll see you on the 23rd. That's what there is to do right now.
All right. So, guys, let us know what you think about WoW Shadowlands, whether you're going to be jumping back in or if you're going to be checking it out for the first time, or if you generally have no interest in WoW. Like, any and all comments are welcome below as an open forum that we try to run here.
And so today we should get the second part of the Scourge event, just to make this video a little more 7 days more evergreen. There's going to be a second part. I don't know what it is as of this recording.
Okay. So guys, be sure to follow Chris on Gaming Kinda so he can keep you up to date on anything that he wants to talk about as it relates to gaming. So Chris, any final thoughts before we spin that wheel?
No, Brian and I, just as a reminder, we're going to be streaming a lot more. The idea for me is that I'm going to stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday from basically when I get up at a reasonable hour through just before lunch. It's kind of that window. Don't have exact times nailed down. Brian's going to stream from his ungodly early hour on Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. That's the normal schedule we're aiming for. We're aiming for it going into a federal holiday here in the U.S., followed by Christmas, followed by New Year's, all during COVID, where like visiting with family is sometimes like, when can a Zoom meeting be scheduled? So like, I'm saying that's the goal. We are immediately going to start by missing our goals. So like, I can already tell you some of those streams won't happen, but that's the long-term normal that we're continually kind of grasping for. And just kind of, it may take some weeks to kind of level out.
All right. Chris, why don't you spin that wheel? We might just end up having a whole collection of videos that we just put out together, depending on what is going on that's topical.
Fishing.
Fishing. Oh, okay. I need to finish my fisher. Have you capped your fisher yet?
Yeah.
Okay, you're a pro. I'm close. I'm 77.
I put out a video on like how to cap your fisher in like 2 hours.
That's right.
Like the first week of the expansion. it was like 90 minutes, and then they came out with fishing raids after that to make it faster.
Oh yeah, and it is fast.
If you have not capped your fisher, it's like,
that's the one. That's the one thing
movie,
that's
any movie, the shortest of movies,
and
you can be capped before it's over.
All right, guys. So we'll be talking about the state of fishing within the world of Final Fantasy XIV in an upcoming video, guys. Be sure to let us know what you think in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Welcome you officially to the workforce. So if you do that, we can just welcome you in the comments below. Chris, thanks so much for coming, and guys, for Work to Game, my name is Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thank you for being here. Hopefully you guys have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
All right, take care.
This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.